Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtold. And Max, we had a second-time winner for the first time this year, finally at the Buick LPGA Shanghai, and it was a fun one. Jeeno Thitikul won in a playoff, and we finally saw this wild season, get a two-time winner, and it made sense that it's the number one player in the world. And I would guess that she now is going to be the front runner for Player of the Year.
Yeah, you and I both talked about last week how if there will be a two-time winner, it'll be Jeeno, and of course that came true right away. And this was kind of like ironic. I thought this kind of felt like a reverse situation of the Evian, which I think this tournament is like right behind for Tournament of the Year. In the Evian, you saw Grace Kim come from way behind, force the playoff, go into a few playoff holes, even hit one in the water and still managed to recover. And you saw the same thing here with Jeeno, where she went up from 14 to 18, birdie, 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 eagle, par to get into the playoffs. She hit in the water on one of the playoff holes, but still recovered to force another. It went to five. And so it almost felt like an inverse of the Evian, where instead of Jeeno coming out, just short, she came out on top this time. And it's great to see. Obviously, Jeeno is great for the sport. She's an incredible player. I mean, she's like 3 or 4 strokes away from having a season very similar to Nelly's last year. And I think she's just getting better. She had an amazing year last year, and she's having a better one this year.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the fact that she was able to not only come from behind, but close this one out. I mean, the finishing thing has been the issue for her throughout this season, and it was nice to see her be able to finish, weather the adversity with hitting it into the water, and then, be able to come out on top. And yeah, it's great for the sport that she is now a two-time winner on tour this year. But, overall, did anything else stick out to you from the tournament? Because I'll get to what stuck out to me, but that's kind of unrelated to the golf itself.
Well, and this will tie into, I think, when we preview the next tournament on tour. But I think it was very striking to have kind of our two Player of the Year frontrunners, Jeeno Thitikul and Minjee Lee, both kind of up there. Obviously, Minjee Lee kind of fell off the pace from the lead, but she still got a top 3 finish. So she's still kind of staying in it for that Player of the Year award. And I think these two have kind of been a little bit of the story of the year, along with the young Japanese stars, which we had Minami Katsu and Miyu Yamashita like up in the top 10 as well. So you saw a couple stories overlapping there. But I just think seeing Minjee Lee up there, it's great to see her continue to play great golf. And that was one storyline that I thought was really strong this week.
Also, I did want to point out before I get to what kind of stood out to me, two amateurs in the top 11, which is cool. I mean, we continue to see these amateur players come on tour and play these events and have success and be up there with the top of
And
the
yeah, and both of them local players from China, which I think
yeah.
is something to look out for. We're going to talk about the international crown in this episode, but the Chinese team from the international crown seems to be kind of the weakest of the 8, and so maybe these are two players that in the next couple of years could get on that team and kind of elevate it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just cool to see how much young talent is coming up, to join the already, amazing young talent that's already on the tour. It seems like I'm probably wrong here, but it seems like every week there's an amateur making uh making a push in one of these tournaments. The one thing I did want to talk about is, my goodness, those greens. They looked like my local muni.
Yeah,
That was
they looked
bad.
kind of rough. Yeah.
Like,
Um,
I just don't know how a professional tournament has greens looking that bad. Like, it looked like they weren't watered or taken care of.
yeah, obviously different locations, different cultures, different kinds of golf. You don't know what the standards everywhere are, but The greens didn't particularly look great. I think one of the top YouTube comments on the final round was about how just the greens looked horrible out there. Obviously, had some of the best putters on tour playing well, so it's not like it was a big neutralizing factor. Obviously, Jeeno is one of the best putters on tour. Minjee Lee has putted fantastically this year, so it's not like it was punishing good putting, but the greens did look a little rough. They stood out on TV, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like I don't know, they just looked bad. Again, like watching it, like it didn't look like it was really affecting anybody, but they just looked rough. And I think with I think it's just kind of a slightly bad look for the LPGA because you don't want to be seen as like a second rate tour or anything in their case. So yeah, I don't know. It just they just stood out to me, I guess is
I
what is
agree
what I'll say.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, they stood out to me. All right. We have we have the international crown coming up next week. So kind of a abbreviated field for this week's tournament, the BMW Ladies Championship, but it's still a pretty good one. I mean, you've got
Hmm.
some really good talent in this field. So what are you going to be looking out for in the BMW Championship?
I'm just gonna be look at some of these players that we haven't seen in a few weeks. I mean, there's been a lot of players who have kind of taken a lot of time off that post-European swing. I'm looking at a player like Maya Stark, who hasn't played a lot recently. Obviously, she's won a major this year. She's still kind of up there on the CME standings and the Rolex rankings, even though she really just has the one good result this year. So I'm looking to see like how someone like her, like what kind of form is she in going into the international crown? I think Sweden's a real wild card team, and I believe all four of their players are in the field this week. So, like, just getting some clues on how that international crown will go for the players that are in the field, and then obviously like looking at some of the top players like a Minjee Lee, who I think is really interesting. Like, she's still chasing that first player of the year, and I think she has a real shot still. And so I think those kind of things will be interesting through this field. And then, of course, like we've seen so much parity this year. We've seen so many young players win. Like, will we get another first time winner? Will we get another rookie winner? Jenny Bay played great last week. That's another rookie that is just somebody to look out for. So there's a lot to take in with this field. It's maybe not like the best field of the year, but I think for the standards of some of these Asian swing events, especially in the fall, this is a pretty good field.
Yeah, and kind of what do you think of the course this that they're playing on this week and kind of the location of the tournament?
I mean, obviously, first of all, whenever you go to Korea, obviously, just right up there with Japan for the strongest country in women's golf right now. Still, even though it's somewhat cooled over the last 10 years, just kind of slowly, it's still just such a hotbed for women's golf. And it's great that that country that is so strong in the sport gets to host two tournaments in a row with some great players. Obviously, of course, I think it's just very similar to what we saw last week. I think a lot of these courses, when you go over to Asia, they can kind of have the tendency to look the same. Now, I think American courses look the same. I think European courses look the same a lot of times. So that's not really a knock on it. It's just I think we're going to see a lot of the same. Some wide open areas, probably a lot of water, just a course that is unique to American audiences, maybe, but kind of blends in with some of the other Asian swing events.
And where can you find this tournament this week? And I'm
This
guessing
has
it's in prime time again.
Yes, this has very late hours once again, but it has good hours. It has 4 hours on Golf Channel, I believe, Thursday or Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. It has 6 hours on Saturday or on Friday, so good long hours. Good chance to see it, and it's not too late. I think that it ends at midnight every night, at least our time. On the East Coast, I think it goes to like 3 a.m. So maybe that's not as doable, but for us out here on the West Coast, it's pretty doable.
Yeah. Um, and who do you think's going to win?
I do have Minjee Lee. I think she's going to really make the Player of the Year race interesting. Obviously, she just got that third place finish. Going into the International Crown next week, an event that the Australians take very seriously. I think that she'll want to get in good form. This is a course that Australians have done well in. This is a tournament that Australians have done well in. Hannah Green won last year. So I think usually when the Australians, it seems, get really comfortable on a course, they kind of dominate it. We've seen that with in LA at Wilshire, and I think this is kind of the same situation. So I see Minjee Lee winning.
I'm gonna go Rio Takeda. I don't know if I was expecting more from her this year. She's played extremely well. Like she's been in the top 10 of so many tournaments. But I did expect more than one win, so I do think that she'll get that second win of the year this weekend.
For anyone who read my most recent newsletter, you'll know that that was the betting odds that I loved was Rio Takeda.
Yeah, so I will I'll go with her to get the her second win this year. I think we might now that the dam is broken a little bit, I think we might start seeing some second winners,
I
here
agree.
until the end of the season, and then maybe we'll see that Nelly Korda win at some point as well.
Looking at
All
that Annika for
yep,
her.
yep. All right, the international crown. We will just to peel back the curtain a little bit, we will come back in a couple of weeks, recap both the BMW and the International Crown. So we're going to preview the International Crown now. Obviously, there's 8 teams: U.S., Japan, Republic of Korea, Australia, Thailand, Sweden, World Team, and China. Um, really, uh, strong teams top to bottom, but there are some teams I would say that are stronger than the others. What do you who do you kind of see as, the real favorite here?
I would say the favorite to me feels like Korea. They have the home field advantage, so to say. They've got 4 very consistent players, and I think consistency is the key word there. There's a lot of teams here that have very inconsistent teams. Now, they're
Yeah,
teams that when they play at their best could be great. But when I look at Korea, I look at Soju Kim, extremely consistent. Heyron Yu hasn't been as consistent this year, but last year she was just up at the top almost every week. Hyejin Choi, maybe the best player on tour without a win. And she is just so consistently in the top tens. I think almost the weakest player on the team, which is crazy to say, is Jin Young Ko, who might be the best player of her generation. I think might be the weakest player on this team. So I just look at that top to bottom, consistency wise, experience wise, because I do love this Japan team, but they don't have a lot of experience in the format, which worries me a little bit. Obviously, they've got just rookies and young players. I mean, they've got Yamashita and Takeda, both rookies. Now Saigo has not played in this event. Like, this is a very inexperienced team. So I'm looking at Korea and I like what I see.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with you here and say Korea's the strongest. Again, I do like Japan, but as you said, they're all like super young, so that'll be interesting
I
to
think on
watch.
paper, Japan is the strongest team. I think
Yeah,
when you look just purely at the players that are playing, they're the strongest team. I just worry about the experience.
United States, I think the loss of Nelly Korda, it makes this like I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I don't know if they have I think they might have the least like they're the top, they're yeah, I think they might have the least likely chance to win this one.
I would
To be
say, other than China, I would agree with that. I think China has the least chance to win. Um, I think China really was not benefit of uh, timing, because I think if they had Miranda Wong on this team, who won like I think a week or two after the teams are finalized, I think if they had her on this team, they'd have a better chance. But I'm looking at that team right now. I don't see it necessarily. But other than that, I do kind of agree with the United States. They worry me a little bit. I mean, I have confidence in Angel Yin and Lauren Coughlin, but they aren't necessarily in the best form coming into this. Both have
yeah.
been successful in these kind of formats, but they worry me a little bit with their form. Li Know, who was great to start the year, has definitely cooled off. And then Lilia Vu, who obviously is a star, obviously is a 2-time major winner, 5-time winner on tour, but her season has just been horrible. Like, it has been really rough to watch. And frankly, as far as current form goes, she might be the worst player in this whole field. And that's not a good sign for a United States team that's missing their best player.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued about Thailand. They're super top heavy because it's Jeeno, and then you go all the way down to the 18th ranked player in the world. Um, but I could see Jeeno maybe just carrying them.
And
So
they won last time around, and obviously they're only returning two players from that Jeeno area. But I think Jeeno, now that she can kind of take a leadership role, last time this event was played, she was still a little bit unknown by a lot of people, and including her own team. She had the best quote of the week, which was that like, oh yeah, the other three are all friends, and I don't really know them. Well, now she's like more in that leadership role, I think, and I do think that they have like a really intriguing team. Juana Seon's a really under the radar, really great player who I think not a lot of people know the name of, but she's been up in winning contention more than most players on the LPGA Tour over the last few years. And then you look at Anana Rukarn, certainly not my favorite name to type, but she won the match play event at Shadow Creek a couple of years ago, so she's clearly pretty good in this kind of format. So I do think Thailand's an intriguing team. And then, of course, I always go for Australia in these events because they're
yeah,
just so tight and they care so much about this. I think they have a real like national pride about this kind of thing. And I do think they have their four strongest players, which I can't say for every country that I think they have their four strongest players. But I think Minji Lee, Hannah Green, Grace Kim, Steph Kiriakou, like I think that's a really good, strong team. Three of those players were on this team last time, so they have experience in the formats, and they were kind of like the real like underdog, like fun to root for Cinderella story last time around. Now I think they have a little bit of a target on their back, so I'll be interested to see how they perform. But Minji Lee's in great form. Uh, Obviously, they have two of the major winners this season. Like I think Australia is a really fun team to look out for.
yeah, this could be a really fun tournament. I mean, I think there's a path for most of these
Heck, the
squads,
world
except for
team
the U.S.
and China. I will say,
I don't know. I know Roning Yin, she's good.
I don't think the United States or China has a chance. But even looking at the world team, who, if you would have asked me probably a month and a half ago, I would have been like, yeah, I'm a little concerned about that team. But we've seen Charlie Hull play fantastic golf recently. We've seen Brooke Henderson win recently. Like, that's a team that's back up on the rise that I think obviously they have the talent. They have Brooke Henderson, Charlie Hull, and Lydia Ko, three of the most accomplished players of the last 10 years in women's golf. Like, that's a team that if they get together, I mean, obviously there's questions about like how much they care about it. They're not playing for national pride as much as all the other teams, and even Charlie Hull, like a month ago, this was like 3 weeks after the teams were announced. She said she didn't even know who else was on the team until just recently. So it's like there is the question of how much will they care compared to other teams, but I think that's a really fun team to watch out for. Is Brooke, Charlie, and Lydia, and Wei Ling Shi, of course, as well.
Yeah. Before we get to predictions, what do you make of the course, and where can people watch this event?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously we're back in Korea, which, like I said before, is just a really, really great setting. I think for women's golf, just in general, it's a place that just has so much history with the sport, just in the last 20 years, and so I think it's always great to have an event there. And obviously, like the International Crown, will try to go to some of the bigger courses, some I think the more highly rated courses. So I'm expecting it to be at a pretty good course. When you look at times, it's on Golf Channel. We've got 5 days of coverage. We've got 4 or 5 hours of coverage each day, prime time once again for us on the
Yeah.
West Coast. It'll be from 7 till midnight every day on Golf Channel. And so there's good hours, there's good times. Obviously, you'd love to see a little bit more because you'd love to see these full matches, because I think match play is really most benefited by seeing the entire match play out. But it's still good hours, still good times. And so definitely tune in for this because I think it's going to be a great event.
All right. Um, before we get out of here, let's make our predictions for this. I'm gonna start with me this time.
Mhm.
Um, and you're gonna probably think this is a hot take, but you also just complimented them. So, uh, I'm going with the world team. I think the world team's gonna win. I like the momentum that Brooke Henderson and Charlie Hole are playing with. Obviously, I love Lydia Ko. Give me the world team. I think they somewhat shock uh, the the people that are interested in this. But I don't think it should be that much of a surprise if they win. But I do think they're gonna end up pulling it out.
Yeah, I don't mind that pick at all. They'd probably honestly be my third pick, maybe fourth pick, but they're certainly a top half team in my opinion. I think you need to look out for Sweden, as we mentioned, because I think the upside of that team is really strong. I think those players have a lot of talent. They're just very inconsistent. That isn't my pick, but I'm just saying to look out for them. I'm very conflicted between Korea and Australia because I think both of them have a very good chance to win this event. I think they both have deep teams. I think you can rely on all four players on both teams. I'm going to lean with the hometown team and go with Korea for this event. I just think they're so consistent. They might not have the firepower of really any other team. There's no player who I could see going just super low and rattling off a bunch of birdies in a row. But I think that team just isn't going to lose a lot of holes. And so I think they're in a really, really good position. I think that's just the team that I want. There's no player at the time of when these teams are solidified, there's no player outside the top 25 in the world rankings, which I just think that's just a really good, consistent team. I trust every player on that roster. I'm going to go with Korea.
All right. And before you get out of here, just make sure you go check out Max's coverage of the BMW Championship and the International Crown up now on Fore-All.com. That's FORE-ALL.com. And subscribe to the newsletter. It's a good time to subscribe to the newsletter. So, yeah, and we will come back in 2 weeks and recap both of these tournaments.